Alright guys, so I don't make videos often, don't really put stuff on YouTube, um, but I've been experiencing the stalling rough idle issue with this Jeep for a little while now. Got to the point where it's become like a mission to try to figure out what it is without throwing parts at it. Looked all over the internet, found all kinds of forums where people explained having bad idle air control valves, throttle position sensors, crank sensors, PCMs, the screws to the PCMs, ignition switches, fusible links, and none of them really checked out. Vapor lock in the fuel rail, nothing really checked out as being exactly what I was experiencing, even though so many of the descriptions were really close. I think I just figured out what's going on, and I want to show you guys because it's different than what people are describing. So hopefully this will help somebody in the future. It tends to do it when the engine's hot, but not always. So that was kind of weird because it would usually do it when the engine was fully warm or hot, but that was not always the case, which was odd. And now that I think I have it figured out, it makes a little bit more sense to me. So let me see if I can get it started up. The engine's hot right now. Alright, so the engine's running. When this happens, the gauges go dead, and they don't go dead like it's sputtering. Sometimes it sputters a little, but it's not like it's starving fuel or anything else. They go dead like it's an electrical issue. So, been messing around with this. I went ahead and threw a idle air control valve in it because it was cheap, and it seemed like it was the right symptoms, but that didn't fix it, of course. The noise you hear, that's an electric fan. I converted it to an electric fan out of a 4-cylinder a while ago. And when you're having these electrical problems, even though there's none of my electrical is new, you start questioning yourself about the wiring that you've done and such. But all my wiring is good. That's not the issue. So there's the PCM. There's the computer people talk about with the screws, where they tend to go into they go into like the circuit board and they end up cracking the circuit or bottoming out, creating a short. That is not my issue. But following that big harness right there, it goes around behind the engine, behind the valve cover, and right back in here, what has happened is that harness, it rides tight against that valve cover, and it's eventually, I guess, creating a short, because if I take it and I put pressure on this harness, it kills my engine right there. So what I suspect is that I have a short condition somewhere back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this thing apart, open it up, see what it is, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so just looking at this a little further, on the driver's side, left side of the engine, the rear head stud right there, before I actually got it apart, I was able to see this same harness that comes around is worn right there, and it's worn through that flex tube, and I'm sure it's shorted out some wiring in there. So I'm going to dig into there and see if I can't determine how bad the wiring is and if it's repairable or if the harness needs to be replaced. Alright, I got the harness disconnected from the intake manifold, temp sensor, all the sensors, and went ahead and pulled it up. There's the culprit there, that head stud. The harness was wrapped right around it. I pulled the harness away, and going over here, the harness is laying on the valve cover now. You can see it's chewed through the flex tube, and there's an exposed wire right there. So I'm going to take it apart and see if I can't get it all repaired and get this thing back together. It does not look like at this point that harness will need to be replaced. Just some repair, re-insulate it, and then protect it from happening again. Alright guys, so I cut back the damaged loom. There's the wire. The insulation is all chewed up, but from everything I can see, it looks like that the wiring itself is okay, so there's no reason to cut it and splice it. If there's not a resistance issue in it as it is, cutting it and splicing it wouldn't necessarily help anything, and there's no reason to cut that wire. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use some liquid electrical tape, and then I will rewrap it with electrical tape. And then I also do a bit of electrical wiring. I happen to have some extra 3/4 wire loom, so I will put that over it as well, tape it all back up, and then finally I happen to have some screw protectors as well. This will go over that head stud. That should keep it from happening again. I suspect that's actually a little too small. I might have to go get a bigger size, but nonetheless I'll do that. So take plenty of precautions so this doesn't happen again. Okay, so completed the repair portion. Like I said, I used liquid electrical tape, followed it up with electrical tape, then new flex loom, taped all that back together, retaped up the harness. Now I'm just going to go ahead and reroute and connect everything and see how we turn out. Alright, got it all back together here. There's the harness there, fuel injectors, everything's connected, all the throttle body sensors, harness is rerouted. If you look back in there, that was the culprit area, that was the head stud. I think you can see by the video, but I rerouted the harness and it's above the head stud now, not behind it. And it doesn't even touch it, doesn't want to touch it. So I believe that's a permanent fix. So I think we're good to go there. Let's go ahead and maybe come around here, give it a try, see if this is looks like a fix. I think we're good to go. Hope this helps somebody out.